We're here with Dr. Trevor Dixon, founder and CEO of the JAHJAH Foundation. Dr. Dixon, earlier today you were awarded Order of Distinction, Governor General of Jamaica. How are you feeling, sir?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling humbled. Obviously, it's a time of reflection, as I've been reflecting since August 6th when the announcement was made. Just a period of deep reflection.
Right. So let's take it back a little, right? We're here with the JAHJAH Foundation many years later, right? How did the whole thing got started?
Well, that's a very tricky question. How did the whole thing get started? You know, I mean,
Right.
one may tell you that it got started from birth. You know,
Right.
watching my grandmother giving service to others in the community of Christian in Manchester. One may say it started there. I saw what she did, and I kind of implemented that into my own life, so to speak. You know, so I would say it started in Christian in Manchester. That's where the foundation was laid. Growing up with my grandmother, I'm a grandmother's child, and those of you who are grandmother's children know what that means. Some would say you could find Trevor underneath Miss Vita Fractiel because I was always with my grandmother for the first 10 years of my life.
Right.
And from there I moved on to East Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York, where I tell people I was born in Christian in Manchester, but I was made in East Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Right.
Something about East Flatbush where if you can survive the situation that you are faced with in that environment. A lot of from Christian in Manchester being a rural community. Now you're in a concrete jungle, urban area, and if you're not prepared, it can be quite a transition. And for me, it was a transition. But if you can survive the ills and the ups and downs of East Flatbush, you can develop a certain sense of grit that can carry you through life. So I think my grit comes from being in East Flatbush. Yeah.
Right. So you moved into becoming a doctor, and at some point you felt compelled to give back to Jamaica. Tell us about that.
But it was long before that, actually, to be quite honest. I had a love for science and math, but mostly science, biology. And in high school, in Wingate High School in Brooklyn, they placed me in the pre-medical program or the medical science program. And I had a good understanding of chemistry and physics, but more so chemistry. So at first I thought I was going to be a pharmacist, but then I realized that the patient interaction, the people part of me, have a good interaction with people on a one-to-one basis. Wouldn't work so well as a pharmacist, so I was kind of bored. So then I moved on to, doing something within the hospital, so I chose ultrasound. And through ultrasound, people had a good knock for medical science. I did what's called diagnostic medical ultrasound. I did a program at Downstate University in Brooklyn, New York, and I excelled in that program. And everyone kept on saying, Trevor, you should be a doctor. I think you should be a doctor. You should go. You can't stop here. And I looked at them inside and I said, these people are crazy. Me, a doctor, a kid from East Flatbush, Brooklyn, being a doctor. Didn't see myself in that aspect because I didn't have much role models to say, hey, you can do it. So, I mean, kudos to Dr. Sen, who was a cardiologist at Kings County Hospital, who saw the potential in me and who really pushed me. And then from there, I went on to Columbia University to do my pre-medical sciences, basically to prepare myself for medical school. And it was that journey that I realized that this journey was not so much for me. It was more to be of service to others. Because I remember when the schoolwork, as they say in Jamaica, was licking me in my backside.
Right.
And I said, wow, I made a big mistake thinking I could be a doctor. And a voice said, no, you're going to get through this. And, I got better at, test taking mainly. And I said to God one day, God, you're really going to make me a doctor, huh? And he said to me, he or she said to me, yes, I'm going to make you a doctor. And I made a promise to God then. I said, wow, you're really going to make me a doctor, this kid from East Flatbush? He said, yeah. He said, but I want you to do one thing. Make sure you don't forget these days and what you said, why you want to do it. And I've been giving myself true to those words until this day. And that's the guiding light that always brings me back to myself, Because we all can run away with ourselves as individuals. We can get very egotistical, but when it comes down to it, what is your purpose? Why are you placed on this earth? Is it to have fancy cars? Or is it to be of service of others? And I'm glad that I got that clear instruction that my job was to be of service of others. Yeah.
Right. So at some point, obviously you became a doctor. busy doing your thing, and you now need to return to Jamaica and start this whole giving back, right? My understanding from conversations with you is that it started off with you doing it as an individual back in 2008. Tell us about that first venture into Jamaica.
Well, actually, I've always kept a close contact with the island. My father moved back here after he retired, so I visited back and forth to Jamaica. I had a lot of friends still. I was always connected to the soil in Jamaica, so to speak. And you know, one of my friends gave me a microscope. She went to medical school and she was finished with a microscope. She said, "What do you want to do with this microscope? Can you bring it to Jamaica?" So I spoke to what I call my confidant in Jamaica at the time, Dr. Sonia Copeland. I said, "Dr. Copeland, I have a microscope and I want to donate it to Percy Junior Hospital, because that's where I'm from, in Christiana, you know."
Right.
And she says, "Yeah, I think it can happen." And she kind of paved the way, made some phone calls. And I brought it down in my suitcase and I brought it to the lab at the Percy Junior Hospital, the microscope, which allowed them to be able to tell people's blood count and see blood diseases under the microscope. So that was my first time. I remember. My first donation was a microscope donated by Dr. Clooney LaFleur Sudlow. So thank her for that donation. And she's actually from Haiti,
Right.
and she gave me that microscope. So that was my first sense of giving, and I realized how bad things were in Jamaica when I'm donating a microscope to the lab, and they were so happy for it because they didn't have a microscope. Things that in America people have tons of them sitting around in the lab and don't even know what to do with it. So that's my first giving back. And since then, you know, Dr. Copeland showed me other areas, and I actually went to UWI and I did actually donated some what's called pediatric laryngoscope blade, which is what doctors use to intubate or put patients on the anesthesia. It's a tool that helps them to best put the patient on the ventilator. So I donated those to University of the West Indies Hospital. So I've been doing it for a while, even before JAHJAH Foundation was even
Right. So, well, let's go back to the microscope. When you saw how elated they were upon receiving the microscope, did it give you ideas and encourage you to even do more?
I guess it did, but I knew there was a big need here. There's a big deficiency. There's a very gap in the medical care that was offered in the States and in Jamaica. So I knew that there was a need. And despite people not saying what the needs are, I knew there was a big need, so to speak. Yeah.
Right. So let's move on now to, I think, the main event, or the main initiating event was now the Kingston Public Hospital trek. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was I guess the aha moment, or the turning point in my journey, so to speak. I was staying with a friend, Lyndon Williams, in Kingston, and his wife and my wife were good school friends from Jamaica, and he knew I had a strong desire to help Jamaica. I was talking to him, Lyndon, I really want to see how I can give back. And I always say this, you know, the first people you meet sometimes either draw you towards something or pull you away from it. And you know, Dr. Copeland would always tell me, "Yes, Trevor, there's a need for you in Jamaica." And when I met Lyndon Williams, he said, "Trevor, if what you want to do in Jamaica with ultrasound, I think that's an awesome thing." And then he looked at me and said, "You want to go down to KPH?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to go down to KPH." He said, "Okay, I'll take you in the morning." And his wife looked at him and said, "What? You're going to take him down to KPH in the morning?" And Lyndon said, "Yeah, I'm going to take him to KPH." You have to tell you, Lyndon is not, Lyndon is a Chinese Jamaican.
Right.
And some may feel that, that he'll be uncomfortable in that environment, but he wasn't. He was totally comfortable, and that's what makes Lyndon so special, because he's a very everyday people. He's a people person like myself, so we automatically click together. And not that his wife is not a people person either, but Lyndon and I clicked. So he drove me down to KPH, and I kid you not, he left me in front of KPH and he went to work. He owns one of the department store in Kingston. He left me and said, "I got to go to work now." And being an emergency physician at that time, I had just graduated from training as a 2007, 2006. And I knew I had to give back upon graduation, but I just had to find a way into Jamaica. And KPH was the perfect blend for me, because I worked mostly in urban areas, Kings County Hospital, which is very similar to Kingston Public Hospital. Right. So that was an easy match for me. And I kind of went down there, and I walked into the doors of the Kingston Public Hospital. I spoke to the security guards with their M16, and they looked at me, and they said, "Somebody go call Dr. Wong. Tell them there's some Dr. Dixon want to meet him," because I had one of my cards. And Dr. Wong came to the door, and I can say the rest is history. He walked me into the emergency room, And he looked me up and down. He was a little skeptical to see why is this, young man, he's a doctor in the States, what is his intention? What is his angle? Because oftentimes people who come to Jamaica doing charity work, they always have some angle, or they don't have a long-term plan. It's always they want to do something for now, and they don't have that commitment to make it go on and on. So Dr. Wong approached me with a bit of skepticism, and rightfully so. He's seen this movie before where people come and say they want to help.
Make promises.
And they can't keep promises they don't keep.
Right.
So Dr. Wong, I went to see him in the back of the emergency room, and I was in awe that I was actually at the great Kingston Public Hospital,
right,
the mecca for trauma for the Caribbean. And I did not know that God had all these plans to come later, but here I was at Kingston Public Hospital, and next thing you know, Dr. Wong says, okay, give me your card. And I said, Dr. Wong, I'm not making any promises, but I'm here to help in any way I can. And he looked at my card. It says, Dr. Trevor Dixon, Director of Emergency Ultrasound Education. And I kid you not, I was walking away. He said, hold on there. You do ultrasound?
Right.
I said, yes, I've been trained doing ultrasound for back then it was like 10 years I've been doing ultrasound. And it was very easy for me to do ultrasound, because I did ultrasound before I went to medical school, which was kind of unique. He says, hold on there, man. We have some machine we got from World Cup cricket, because if you check the record, you'll see World Cup cricket was around 2007, 2008. And through the National Health Fund, they had all these ultrasound machines, about 13 devices in Jamaica, but there was no real training going on in the public hospitals. Falmouth had
to
one.
use them.
Pardon?
They didn't know how to use them.
They didn't know how to properly use them. Yes.
Right.
So that's where JAHJAH Foundation was honestly, I would say that's where it was born, even though it wasn't called JAHJAH Foundation then.
Yeah.
Every year since 2008, we've been coming back to Jamaica. We haven't missed a year. In the year of COVID, we did one virtual hands-on workshop and lecture.
Right. Ultrasound conferences.
Yes, but besides that, for the past almost 17 years, since 2008, we come once a year and we do a 2-day ultrasound workshop and hands-on workshop,
right,
and also didactics lectures.
Right.
And we've been doing that successfully. And through that, the technology changed, where the machines were no longer these bulky machines, because those bulky machines were expensive, and it was hard to really fit all these hospitals with an ultrasound machine. And as you know, ultrasound is one of the best and easiest tests you can have when you just arrive in the emergency room in an emergency. You can tell if you have free fluid in your abdomen, and that would make you go to the operating room a lot faster than if you had to sit and wait for patients' blood pressure to change or patients to look sick. The ultrasound can tell you when somebody's sick without them looking sick, basically.
Right.
So we started that program, and we would hear about all these cases of patients being saved because of the use of ultrasound. So it was really frustrating that every hospital did not have an ultrasound machine. You're talking doctors would come from Black River, Cornwall Regional, and they'll come and hear this wonderful lecture, and they'd go back to a department that didn't have an ultrasound machine.
Right.
And by the faith of God, and it could only be what we call JAHJAH works.
Right.
God intervening and say, we're going to change this. And in 2019, the evolution of handheld ultrasound became very prominent in Jamaica, and not just Jamaica, in the world. Handheld devices. This is new technology.
Right.
Just like our cell phones are pocket devices, ultrasound became a pocket cell phone device. And while we were trying to do a pilot program, because what does that mean that we have these pocket handheld ultrasound? I mean, the price was a lot cheaper. Instead of a machine costing $50,000, $60,000, now you can get a device for $3,500, $2,500 US dollars, which is unheard of.
Right.
Yeah,
it's just as effective.
Just as effective. So it put a lot of those big businesses out of business.
Right.
And it meant that developing countries could now, through this global health initiative, be able to save lives at a cheaper cost as far as getting ultrasound. Because remember also, patients have to traditionally pay for an ultrasound before they can get it. But now the doctors have it at the bedside, and if a patient's being shot in the chest, he doesn't want to hear that he has to pay to get an ultrasound. He'd like to know that ultrasound could be available, and he could talk about the price of his life later, right, by the use of the ultrasound.
Right. So JAHJAH Foundation has had that ultrasound conference, countless health fairs over the years in schools and community health fairs all over Jamaica, so many things. What would you say has differentiated JAHJAH Foundation from all these other organizations?
It's really a simple answer. We have a simple formula. And our formula is we speak to the folks on the ground and see what their needs are, okay? And we do medical missions, but medical missions aren't the core of what we do. We do medical mission with one purpose, to see what the needs in these communities are. And if we can fix these problems, we certainly do. As we say, we attack low-hanging fruits. So it may be that a child's home needs a sick bay.
Right.
Okay? It may mean that an emergency room needs to be renovated somewhat so they can see patients in dignity. You know?
Right.
Some of the projects we've done is like the roofs in hospitals are not covered. Mosquitoes are coming in. And one of the biggest bloodborne diseases come from mosquitoes. So if you have an open roof and mosquitoes are coming in, how are you going to attack dengue? How are you going to attack chikungunya and these other diseases that are mosquito-borne? So we do simple things like fixing the infrastructure to make sure that patients are seen in a dignified way. Yeah.
Right. So what I have come to realize is that you were able to mobilize a lot of volunteers. And the volunteers are very passionate about this organization. They all want to come back every year. What do you think drives that passion that the volunteers have for the organization?
I can sit here and lie to you, but Jamaica is a beautiful country, and it's not hard to sell Jamaica,
Right.
especially in the wintertime, okay? So the volunteers, they enjoy giving back, and Jamaica's culture is infective, okay?
They're infectious,
It infects you, okay?
Right.
Once you're exposed to a Jamaican, or Jamaican food, or Jamaican people, or Jamaican music, you can't get out your system, okay?
Right.
And as they say, once the reggae music hits you, you feel no pain. So Jamaica is a therapeutic country. So I honestly make sure that when we come to Jamaica, we don't benefit more from what we're doing than our patients, okay?
Right.
So there's a lot of feel-good missions. They come here for a week and they see patients in the beautiful tropical weather, and they check blood pressures. Well, these things are important, but that's not the core of what we do. We want to make sure that when we leave the island, we don't get a better deal out of coming to Jamaica than our patients. So we make sure we have continuity where we're building infrastructure, and we call our thing Mission for Change, because we don't just do missions to feel good. We do missions to change how things are that we see in front of us.
Right. So it's been a very interesting journey, and you have very big social media presence: YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram. Tell us about that.
But it's from the beginning of its inception, JAHJAH Foundation has been a team approach. There are many pieces that makes JAHJAH Foundation work, okay? And social media presence is one of the most important things. So very early on, Garvin Gray, he's referred to as a media strategist. He figured out that we had a good product, and the product needed to be seen. And he's always said, if you don't have any substance, there's no one in the world that can save you if your substance is not good. But if you have a good product, you should let the world see it and let them understand what you're doing. And he believed that people would buy into the idea of what we're doing. So that's how social media works for us. And he takes care of everything. We're on all platforms. X, formerly Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on every platform that's out there now. Instagram, we're there. So that's important so people can see our work, because there's a lot of people out there who say they have medical missions, they do fundraisers, and people want to know, what are you fundraising for? We made some money last year, what did our money do? So we have a Facebook presence, we have a social media presence that allows folks to see exactly what we're doing. So there's no doubt when they donate where their dollars are going, and that's one of the most important aspects of what we're doing.
Young man from Christiana, right, left Jamaica at 10 years old to go to New York, became the young man from East Flatbush, right, became a medical doctor, and then now, after all these years of the JAHJAH Foundation, you got a call now to say that you're being honored with an order of distinction from your home country. Tell us about that.
Well, you mentioned I got a phone call to come to Jamaica. We get phone calls all the time.
Right.
Whenever there's something major going on in Jamaica, we usually get a phone call, not directly, but we get a phone call that, Jamaica needs help, It's funny to say I got a phone call. During COVID, we also got a phone call that said, Jamaica's in a crisis, how can you help? And what do? We figured out how can we help Jamaica during COVID? And we already had a presence in Westmoreland. So, we don't believe in irony, okay? we believe that God intervenes and puts us where we are to be. And Erwin Clare, OD, he called me and said, Dr. Dixon, you know, COVID is in Jamaica. What do you plan to do? And I guess he planted the seed, and my brain started working. I'm like, wow, yeah, I think I should have to respond to this, right? So once again, God's in control. He said, don't worry. And I always go to my key folks to say, hey, are you willing to go to Jamaica with me? And at JAHJAH Foundation, we are a group of dedicated volunteers, okay? All our volunteers, they don't get paid for what they do. They take time off from their jobs and sacrifice for Jamaica. And these are high-paying jobs too, but this is their service to their country. And I'll tell you that 65% of our volunteers on the COVID mission weren't actually Jamaicans, okay?
Right.
They're just people in healthcare who know what it is for people to be suffering. And of course, the epicenter for COVID was New York City, so we knew how to fight COVID. And we came to Jamaica just to support our brothers and sisters in healthcare who were struggling with not just the physical aspect of COVID, but also the social and psychological aspect of COVID. So we were happy to work alongside our brothers and sisters. Let them see there's nothing to be afraid of. You got to be cautious, but you can survive this pandemic. And so Jamaica, that's the first time Jamaica called, and we were able to answer that. So.
Right, so COVID came and went. We survived COVID. Then Hurricane Beryl came and hit, and you got a phone call.
I got a phone call again from my good friend, Dr. Stephen Fu in Black River. I said, Dr. Fu, I know that the South Coast was hit and you're in Black River. What's going on? I said, boy, Trevor, it's rough. He said, we're not really seeing medical patients, but we see a lot of social issues that are happening surrounding hurricane. With hurricane, if people don't have proper water to drink, of course, everything becomes contaminated. The drinking water becomes contaminated because of the flood waters and everything else. And sometimes buildings become destroyed. People have no roof over their head, and children become sick from that. So, as a medical charity, medical and educational charity, this was intertwined with what we believe we should be doing, providing medical care before preventative medical care. So for Hurricane Beryl, we provided drinking water. We also provided food and shelter by providing zinc and lumber.
Zinc, everything. It's a big container.
Yeah.
What people don't know is that the container was so big that even U.S. Customs held on to the container for a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't try to share that story too often, but yes, the JAHJAH container, as you can see, is a 40-foot container. It was stopped by U.S. Customs because, of course, the container says JAHJAH Foundation. And we thought it was important for us to brand our container because the first thing somebody's going to say, no, man, them send container Jamaica. They not send no container go Jamaica.
Right.
So we made sure we branded our container so people would say that's the JAHJAH Foundation container. Not knowing that was a double-edged sword when I branded the container. Because there's still people out there who associate JAHJAH with the Rastafarian movement. And actually our acronym means Jamaicans abroad helping Jamaicans at home. And that's what JAHJAH says. But U.S. Customs saw that, and I don't know, there must have been a Jamaican who worked for Customs who saw that and said, no, pull that container. It must be full of ganja.
Held on to it.
So U.S. Customs pulled my container and detained it for about 2 weeks.
Right.
And I had to pay U.S. Customs for the fact that they pulled my container and searched it.
Right.
Can you believe that?
Terrible.
Yeah, so we move on beyond that.
A high price for us to do this charity work.
Yes.
Right.
Charity isn't free.
Right.
Okay.
So to loop back in now, you got the call about the OD because earlier today, you received the OD, and I'm trying to now get us to talk about this whole OD, the lead up to the OD. We have dealt with the lead up to the OD, and now you got the call to say, hey, you're going to be recognized by your Jamaican people for the great work that you have been leading with the JAHJAH Foundation. Tell us about that.
Once I got the call that the JAHJAH Foundation, through the works of Dr. Trevor Dixon, would be honored with the Order of Distinction, I automatically reflected on the journey. Saying, wow, here it is. I started something from the goodness of my heart, and here it is blossom where people are just not only recognizing what I've done, but what all my volunteers have done over the years. So we've had a lot of volunteers over the years. We started with about 5 or 6 volunteers, and now we're about 75, 80 volunteers on the ground in January when we're here. So the OD means a lot to me, but I think it means so much more for our volunteers because this is their OD. This is their order of distinction, saying that, you know what, you come here, you're under less than ideal circumstances sometimes. You're not used to that, you know. It's not we're not here at a 5-star hotel most of the time. We're here in community hotels that says, you know what, we believe in what you're doing, and we're going to support you in your endeavor to make a better Jamaica. And many of these hotels, they take a discounted rate to make sure that we can afford to bring these volunteers down here. So kudos to our sponsors and the hotels here in Jamaica that make it possible. But it's order of distinction. It's for all of us who are involved in the JAHJAH Foundation, from our volunteers who are based on our foundation, and to our sponsors, to our ticket sellers. Because we keep 2 events every year, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not the best person at selling a ticket. Right. But we have some volunteers that are so amazing. They can sell ice to Eskimos, okay? Right. And not that what we're doing is in a kind of, you know, it's ice to Eskimos, but, you know, it's hard to convince our community, because I mainly advertise to the Jamaican community and the Jamaican diaspora and friends of Jamaica. And when they see us coming sometimes, you know, I wonder what they're saying in their head. They have enough bills to pay. You know, this is one more expense that I can't afford. In their mind, they think that they can't afford it. But I often say to them that, you know, if you think it's expensive now, try to live in Jamaica and try to navigate this healthcare system, sometimes even the educational system. These folks need a little help. Just a little bit, as they say, a little bit of meat in the soup pot just to make their life a little bit better. So I'm grateful for all our volunteers, our sponsors, all our supporters who come on board, not just for our gala, but also for our boat ride. We sell raffle tickets. We're a grassroots organization. We don't get big funding yet from big corporations. So if any big corporations listening that want to support and invest in a great foundation, JAHJAH Foundation is your foundation.
Right. So talking about fundraising and keeping events to raise funds. In the early years, 2010, 2011, 2012, you know, you had a boat ride that the boat didn't sail. You had another boat ride where, you know, the power of the engine not working. Tell us about some of these challenges.
I can explain it to you in one verse from Buju Banton's song, right? What's that song? It's not an easy road. Some see the glamour and the glitter, and them think it's a better rose. But who feels it knows it, because we're here for those people in Jamaica who are feeling it. Right. It's not been a better road. We kept a lot of fundraisers where me and Mr. Gray would sit on the outside and says, I can't understand these people. Look at the good we're trying to do, and we can't even get somebody to come and support a little fundraiser in Brooklyn. Right. You know, and we kept the boat ride, and for some reason, you know, we were trying to renovate a school in Little London, and we're trying to provide electricity and desks for the kids, and the boat didn't sail. I said to myself, God, why would you do this? All we're trying to do is help the needy and poor. But God said to me, don't worry. This is only a test to see your faith, you know? Right. He said, did you hear about a guy named Job?
Right. You kept going to your credit.
These stories, you know, are there for us to oftentimes reflect and don't lose faith, because others have been through the same journey that we have been through, just to keep us solid and keep us firm.
Right. So this interview is getting too long, longer than I anticipated. Yeah, but I know you're a busy guy. Dr. Dixon, earlier today, you know, you're queued up, lined up, on the way up to the podium to collect the Odie. Tell us what was going on in your head.
Well, you know, thank God we had the rehearsal ahead of time. We had a rehearsal on Saturday, 2 days before the event, to let us know exactly what to anticipate, how the flow of things would go, how to march, how to walk up there, how to stand in front of the Governor General, and how to be respectful for the proceedings. So it wasn't as nerve-wracking. It was a hot day. I knew it was going to be hot. The rehearsal was actually hotter, and there were no fans out there. So, I mean, it's nice to see, you know, we were able to get a lot of the JAHJAH volunteers, supporters, and sponsors there to partake in the event. Almost everyone who was a part of the journey was there, who could be there, you know. So there was limited tickets. We wish we could have all the JAHJAH team there, but it really wasn't possible. Some are abroad and some are here at home. So we want to thank all those folks who were able to come out, and those who couldn't make it, just know that you were there in spirit, and that, you know, we really love you all, the sponsors, the supporters, our volunteers. We're all in this together, and we have so much more to do. This OD, to me, is only the beginning. You know, it's only a rites of passage to say, yeah, you know what, we think you're a legitimate organization in Jamaica. Now what can you do to help your country? Right. You know what I'm saying?
So the outlook for the future, you have a lot more work, miles to go.
Oh, of course. I mean, Jamaica's pledge is very dear to our heart. That's what we keep. That's what today's about. You know, this Heroes Day is about. You know, I pledge my heart. You know, forever for Jamaica, and that's what we're here for, mind and body and soul, to help make a better country.
Well, congratulations to you on receiving the OD. I know, you know, you're a very visionary leader. You always come up with these ideas about what we're going to do next. Next January, last January, you're down in Fletcher's Land. Before that, you were down in Jonestown. Now you're going to Marvelly. You're going to be going to Arnett Gardens. You know, you keep trying to raise the bar each time, yes?
Well, you know, like I said, we go where we're invited. So if you're listening here and you think we should go in your community, find a local champion that can make it happen. Because everyone wants us to come into the community, but no one wants to take the responsibilities of doing what it takes. It's not easy to come to a community and do a health fair. Right. We need permission from the health center nearby. We also need permission from the police officers. We also need a space to be able to operate. We need electricity oftentimes and running water. We have dentists that come that need to sterilize their equipment to make sure we're doing the right thing, you know, in these communities. We bring doctors with 20, 30 years of experience. Right. We don't bring medical students to see patients. We bring doctors who are practicing in the States, and they love JAHJAH and they love Dr. Dixon, so that's why they're there.
Right, so in closing, Dr. Dixon, again, congratulations on getting the OD. I admire your visionary leadership, and you know, do you have any closing thoughts that you want to share?
Yeah, you know, my wife Claudia, if she wasn't on board with any of this, you know, as my friend Garvin Gay would say, if your wife is not on board, none of this is going to be possible, because if you have hell in your house, you're not going to be able to function as a leader. So thank Claudia for being my partner in this, buying into this. It didn't hurt that she was from Jamaica and she went to Holy Childhood, so she knows, you know, what Jamaica is all about. I think that was kind of key. She's comfortable in Jamaica, and our kids, they know what we're doing, and she holds it down. When I'm here running around, whether it's in New York, trying to sell tickets, trying to convince people, trying to go to different events, or whether I'm in Jamaica here doing a medical mission, she holds it down. You know, so I couldn't do it without her. So I want to big her up to her also, right, and my family, my sisters, and right. I just want to say a big thank you to all our sponsors. And when I say our sponsors, all our sponsors, you know, in those early days when we first started out, we had a lot of sponsorship then. As we move along, sponsors, sometimes they come and they go, not because they don't want to be involved, but because things change, you know. So to all the sponsors who have been here in the past, who are here now, and the sponsors to come on in the future, thank you, because without you, honestly, we can't do it. We know, we know the cost of success sometimes is giving back. Sometimes some corporations, they find it hard, some small businesses find it very hard to do that. But all our sponsors, our volunteers over the years, and our supporters who come to an event, we thank you. And we look forward to seeing so much more of you, and now that the JAHJAH Foundation has received this order of distinction. Not Dr. Dixon, the JAHJAH Foundation has received this order of distinction. Jamaicans abroad and friends of Jamaica helping Jamaicans at home. One love.
All right, well, thank you.